Hi everyone, this is Third Child ZKI, better known in Final Fantasy XIV as Lace Valeria. Rival Wings is a competitive mode that pits two teams of 24 against each other, featuring the famous mechs of the Alexander Raid series as powerful siege weapons, with the ultimate goal of destroying the enemy team's core. It could seem like a lot's going on all at once, but once you know what's what, you can bring the Gabi Boom and avoid Uplander doom. Let's get you started. First, let's cover the primary objectives. These are the elements of the match that are or can be crucial to your team's success, and attacking, defending, or just generally prioritizing these will make a huge difference in the flow of the battle. First up is your core, the all-important defense objective for your team and your main target of the enemy team. As the primary victory criteria of the match, you'll want to ensure you deal more damage to the enemy team's core than is dealt to yours. As a major line of defense against incoming threats, two steam cannons are positioned at the forward edge of your team's starting area, or base for short. Cannons can do quite a bit of damage to both players and mechs, but are limited by their rate of fire and their range. When it comes to defending your core, it definitely helps to have both players and mechs readily available to handle incoming threats. In order to damage a core, you'll have to first destroy one of the two towers that shields it. These sit just a bit ahead of your base to the north and south of it, and are yet another important offense or defense objective. Players on foot will be supported by the tower defense regen buff so long as they remain in the glowing radius around the tower, but if the tower is lost, the buff is lost, and the core becomes targetable. Once more, both players and mechs will be vital to the attack or defense of this objective. Mammoths are the autonomous attack drones of your team that will generate two at a time, run along the defined lanes, and battle each other. While they won't attack players, players can attack the enemy team's mammoths in order to help their own gain more ground. If and when they reach towers or cores, they will self-destruct, dealing some pretty decent damage to the objective based on how much HP they have remaining. As such, it can be very helpful to have a healer present to help keep mammoths alive as you push through a lane. Defeating enemy mammoths is also a viable means to gain ceruleum, or CE, for your team, which brings me to the final primary objective. CE is the fuel resource for the mechs and is available from multiple sources within the match. CE tanks spawn all over the lower portion of the map in Hidden Gorge, including underneath the train platform, and grant 10 CE per tank. Mammoths grant up to 20 CE when you destroy them, and the train occasionally delivers 50 CE for your entire alliance to the middle platform as a contestable resource. It only takes 50 CE to summon a mech, so this can be a highly useful option to pursue when available. When you're at or above 50 CE, be sure to use it, as it's far more of a benefit to get a mech on the field than to try and max out your team's CE. Please also keep in mind CE is not shared between the 4-man teams within the alliance, so if you have enough, use it and leave some for your other teammates. Overall, CE is the all-important resource of the match. Get it however and whenever you can. Now that we've covered the primary objectives, let's look at the big attraction of Rival Wings, the mechs. Mechs are your team's heavy hitters when it comes to attacking and defending objectives within the match, and all three have their strengths and weaknesses against players and primary objectives. Both friendly and enemy team mechs are always visible on the map when active, and some of their abilities feature a cast time when used. While their attacks generally cover wide ranges and can be difficult to dodge, they aren't impossible, but you will need to be quick on your feet to do so. Mechs can't be healed, but you can eject at any time, and if you do so, your HP will reflect the damage taken proportionately. And though their size might make them seem intimidating if you're on foot, don't underestimate the damage several players can do to a single mech. Now let's look at each one, starting with the Cruise Chaser. As the fastest of the three, the Cruise Chaser is your best anti-player and anti-mech defense. With a limit of 6 you can have active at a time, that's 1 per each 4-man team, you're guaranteed to see many of them going forward and back during a match. Yes, I just said that. Although it's the fastest, it also has the least HP of the three at 50,000, so players can be just as much of a threat to a chaser as it is to players. The biggest of its threats being the Laser X Sword. Laser X Sword is a wide conal AoE that deals 10,000 damage to players and mechs, but 1,000 to mammoths and objects such as towers and cores. This is highly effective as both a primary attack against players and an area denial. If you're on foot, you definitely don't want to get hit by this. As a long-range option, Optical Sight delivers 5,000 damage to players and mechs, and 500 to mammoths and objects. It's highly useful as a zoning tool, area denial, and decent damage on the approach. Up close and personal, the Spin Crusher is a small conal attack, and your best anti-mech attack since it's instant, unlike the others. It deals 7,500 damage to mechs, and 750 to players, mammoths, and objects. Next up is the Oppressor. The Oppressor is your main siege tank of the match, and the heaviest hitter when it comes to towers and cores. Although it has a whopping 150,000 HP, it's not very fast at all, and is highly prone to damage on its own, so it's best escorted by a chaser to handle incoming threats. Enemy Oppressors are best engaged early, before they can possibly get in range to attack. However, because of their slow speed, it's ill-advised to try and divert or dodge incoming attacks when you're piloting one. You most likely won't be able to anyways. The Oppressor only has two abilities: Steam Release, a 2,500 damage attack to players and mechs, and 250 damage to mammoths, with a knockback effect to players only, and the 3,000 tons missile, which brings the boom with 250,000 damage against towers or cores. The missile will also deal 5,000 damage to players, mechs, and mammoths in range, but it's honestly better used on the towers and cores, where it's far more effective. The max deployable number of Oppressors at a time is 2. When one of your towers is destroyed, you then gain the ability to summon the Brute Justice. Brutes are a powerful jack of all trades, absolutely lethal against enemy players, great at locking down and defending lanes, and if need be, they can deal pretty decent damage to towers and cores as well. With only 75,000 HP, they're beefier than a chaser, but enough focus on a brute can still take them down just as easily as any chaser, especially later in matches when teams will be dealing greater damage. With the idea of both attack and defense in one, the Flare Thrower is a giant conal AoE that deals 10,000 damage to players and mechs, 1,000 damage to mammoths, and leaves a burning damage over time effect on players. This is offset by a slightly longer than normal cast time, so if you see it casting, you might want to clear the targeted area. The sheer size, damage, and effect of this attack make it a great tool for area denial. The Double Rocket Punch is the Brute's instant attack, dealing 100,000 damage to objects and 5,000 damage to players, mechs, and mammoths. If you're attacking an objective with a Brute, this is definitely the skill to use. The punch is also a stun against players, and a great setup for Flare Thrower or the Brute's big bad third ability, Mega Beam. Mega Beam is a long-range line AoE that deals 12,500 damage to players and mechs, and 1,250 damage to mammoths and objects. This will effectively one-shot anyone who isn't a tank or a healer, and even in their case, it's a pretty nasty hit to take, especially after a Rocket Punch stun. It is, however, one of the best tools for locking down choke points in lanes, and players hit by it will suffer twice the knockback as usual, if they survive it. It's worth noting, however, that as long as you're still fairly above half your HP, you can survive Mega Beam if you're under the effect of the tower defense regen buff. But really, so long as you can avoid it, don't get hit by Mega Beam. The max deployable number of brutes at a time is relative to your towers, so 1 if you still have a tower remaining, and 2 if you've lost both. And there you have it. We covered the primary objectives of rival wings and the mechs you can use to attack or defend them. Understanding how these all tie together, both offensively and defensively, is the raw fundamentals of being able to fly high and soar to victory in rival wings. There is more to it than just these, but we'll cover that in another video. For now, let me please thank Brian Ricardo for providing some of the footage to make this possible, and the Revival Wings Discord for helping to build a better informed and competitive community for rival wings. And thank you for watching. I'm Third Child ZKI, aka Lace Valeria. Till the next battle.